All right. Well, thanks again, everyone who joined the call. My name is Chris Hunter. I'm here representing StopWaste, as well as the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or BayREN. I'll explain briefly what both of those organizations are in just a minute. But this event is being hosted by the City of Dublin. So I assume most of you are Dublin residents. If you don't live in Dublin, that's okay. We are still happy to have you on the line, as most of the resources and programs we'll be discussing today are available to residents across Alameda County, and some of them are available across the entire Bay Area. So before we get going, I just have a couple of quick housekeeping notes. So first, all participants are muted and have your videos turned off. If you have a question or a comment, down at the bottom of your screen, you should see a chat box and a Q&A box. We ask that you reserve the chat box for things like if you're having technical issues, having a hard time hearing us or anything like that. And then any questions related to the actual content of the presentation, please use the Q&A box. We'll answer what questions we can kind of in the chat throughout the presentation. And anything we don't get to there, we will reserve a little bit of time at the end for live Q&A. And finally, as you probably noticed, this event is being recorded. And so if you have to drop off at any time, the recording will be available online later. We'll also send a follow-up email later this week with a PDF of the slides, speaker contact info, and some other relevant links that we mentioned. Excuse me. So what we'll be covering today, we're going to start with a quick presentation by Emily Groth with the city on the current state of climate action planning and climate-related projects going on in Dublin. There's some exciting work happening that we want you all to hear about. And then I'll cover a couple of the recent trends that are affecting your energy bill and why they matter. Then you'll hear from Juan Cortez with East Bay Community Energy, or EBCE, which has provided Dublin residents with electricity since 2019. And then I'll cover a couple of some of the more common home performance issues that we see throughout the Bay Area, and some solutions that can really affect your home comfort, health, and efficiency. And then finally, we will get to the juicy part towards the end of the presentation, which is rebates and resources that you can take advantage of. And we hope to have a couple of minutes available at the end for, again, for live Q&A. But again, if you have questions that come up throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to just leave those in the Q&A box, and we will be sure to get to them either in the chat or again at the end. Oops. So just briefly, for those who are unfamiliar, I want to introduce StopWaste. We are a public agency serving Alameda County, its 14 cities, incorporated cities, as well as 2 sanitary districts. Our mission is to help Alameda County waste less and use water, energy, and other resources more efficiently. I kind of like to think of us as the outward-facing sustainability arm for the county. We provide a lot of outreach and education for residents and businesses, in addition to providing support to all of our member agencies, such as the City of Dublin. And as our name suggests, StopWaste is heavily involved in solid waste reduction, but there's also a team of us that works on issues that are more related to green buildings and energy. And within that team, a major part of our role is to serve as the Alameda County representative for the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or BayREN. So BayREN is a collaboration of local governments from across the Bay Area, cover 9 counties that you can see on this map here. And our main mission is to provide various energy saving programs, resources, and education to help the state meet its really ambitious climate goals. So we offer programs for single family homeowners, multifamily properties, small businesses, real estate professionals, as well as local government staff. And today we'll be focusing on the single family programs. However, if you are a renter or you live in multifamily property, feel free to let me know in the chat, and I can share some resources that you might be able to access. Finally, I just want to note that BayREN is primarily ratepayer funded, which means basically every month on your PG&E bill, a small piece of that is a fee that goes to the state, and then the state reallocates that money back to groups like BayREN in order to provide these services. So I like to say, essentially, you're already paying for all of these programs, and we really just want you to take advantage and be able to save energy and money while also improving the health and comfort of your home. So you'll hear from me again in a few minutes, but for now I want to turn it over to Emily with the City of Dublin to share a little bit about what's going on locally.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. So I'm Emily Groff. I'm the Civic Spark Fellow at the City of Dublin, and I'll be talking to you today about our climate action plan and some energy efficiency projects that have recently been going on throughout the city. Next slide. So just as a quick introduction, our climate action plan was passed by City Council in September 15th of 2020, and it's the Climate Action Plan 2030 and beyond, and serves as an update to some previous climate action plans. And the goals in the climate action plan aligned with a couple statewide goals. The first being Senate Bill 32, which sets a statewide target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. And then the second one is Executive Order B 5518, which sets a statewide goal to reach carbon neutrality by 2045. Next slide. So this graph here just gives a summary of these targets. If you look at the blue line, you can see the 2030 target, and then you can see at the very end there in 2045, the goal of carbon neutrality. And the climate action plan has a bunch of actions and different measures that will help us reach these goals. Next slide. So this slide has a summary of the 2015 greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and this illustrates where different greenhouse gas emissions are generated throughout the City of Dublin, whether it's residential, commercial, and municipal activity. So if you look at the residential gas and electricity use, this is the different area that the resources in this workshop today will kind of relate to and cover. And then the greenhouse gas inventory also informed the different strategies and the different implementation measures that Dublin chose to include in its CAP 2030. Next slide. So some of these CAP strategies, we have 22 measures and 5 different strategic areas. The first is 100% renewable and carbon-free electricity. The second is building efficiency and electrification, which relates to the energy efficiency resources that we'll be talking about today. The third is sustainable mobility and land use. The fourth, materials and waste management. And then the fifth is municipal leadership, which covers the energy efficiency projects that I will be talking about in a moment. And then if you want to learn more about our CAP 2030 or actually read the document, you can scan this QR code right here and check out more information on our website. Next slide. So the city has been taking part in some energy efficiency projects recently, and these are taking place across the city. On July 20th, 2021, City Council approved a turnkey contract with Willdan. And these projects will have 2 main goals. The first is that it will result in more than $28 million in utility savings over the next 25 years. And the other is that it will help the city become more resilient during power outages, whether these are a result of natural disasters or public safety power shutoffs in response to wildfire risks. So these improvements will be implemented over the next 18 to 24 months. So you can take a look around the city and see how construction is going and even some projects that have been completed so far. And we're really excited because these projects support a lot of our CAP measures. So we're moving forward with that. Next slide. The city-wide energy efficiency projects cover a pretty large variety of areas, such as LED lighting replacement, HVAC replacement, and smart control installation, which has to do with your heating and your air conditioning in buildings, solar panels and battery storage, backup for traffic signals, and electric vehicle charging stations. If you scan this QR code here, you can check out our website, and it gives some more details about the different project areas, as well as a construction update on where these projects are taking place, when they're going to be completed, and different things like that. Next slide. So just to give you a sneak peek of what's been going on around the city lately, this is some LED lighting being installed in the Dublin Library a couple weeks ago. Next slide. This is some solar panels that were installed on Fire Station 17 that will provide renewable energy to to the facility. And then this is some new energy efficient lighting being installed at the Dublin Sports Grounds near the Civic Center. So we're really excited about these projects going on over the city, and this is just a snippet of what's been happening. And the rest of this presentation will give you some resources and information about how you can do similar projects in your own home. So with that, I will hand it back to Chris.
Great, thank you so much, Emily. So in addition to all of that great information on what's going on at the city level in Dublin, I also want to provide some background for what's happening at the state and regional level that is impacting your energy bills behind the scenes, and what that means for you in both the short and the long term. So probably as you're all at least somewhat aware, there's been over the recent years a lot of both policy interventions as well as external trends that have really changed the way that we purchase and consume energy in California. So from a policy standpoint, really the main goal that we are working towards is to decarbonize the energy sector, as Emily shared. And we know that in order to avoid the worst consequences of climate change, we need to more or less get to this point over the next 30 years, ideally even sooner. And so it's a really complicated issue, and a lot of people, just makes their head hurt thinking about it and they kind of shy away. But I think it helps to kind of break it down into 3 basic steps. And it's really, when you actually break it down like this, not as complicated as it sounds. So the 3 steps are: number 1, just to reduce the total demand for energy, which both through greater efficiency, so higher efficiency appliances, as well as some behavior change might be involved in that. The second step is to transition the electricity grid away from fossil fuels like coal and natural gas powered electricity to 100% carbon-free and renewable sources. And then third, once we've reduced our demand as much as we can and all of our electricity is clean, that final step would be to get rid of all of our machines and appliances that run on fossil fuels. So things like water heaters, furnaces, gas-powered cars, and replace all of those with all electric models that can really take advantage of that clean grid, and make sure that they're powered by 100% renewable energy. So BayREN primarily focuses on the first and third, the reducing the efficiency and the electrification pieces of this. And in a few minutes, we'll hear from EBCE, who is making great progress to help us on that second piece of the clean electricity grid. But I just like to start with this framework. I think it helps to kind of think about where we are and what needs to happen to get there, or to get to where we need to go. So California has some of the most ambitious climate targets really in the entire world, not just the country. And we're actually making really great progress towards that already. So we have a goal of 50% of our electricity coming from renewable sources by 2025, and 100% coming from zero carbon sources by 2045. And just if you don't know, the difference between renewable and zero carbon is that renewable is primarily just solar and wind power, whereas zero carbon would also include sources like hydroelectric or nuclear power that are, don't have carbon emissions, but are not technically renewable. And a big reason for the progress we've made is the rise of renewables. So the cost of solar and wind has fallen drastically in recent years, as you can see in this chart on the left, to the point that it's actually, in most cases now, cheaper than producing electricity with fossil fuels. And that trend is only going to continue as the technology progresses and the market continues to adopt these technologies. And that's caused a huge surge in the amount of solar and renewables that we have available. And in 2019, for the very first time since the Industrial Revolution, the United States received a greater proportion of its electricity from renewables than from coal. So it's super exciting. In California, I think that happened even earlier, and that trend is much more pronounced. But the fact that's happening, across the entire country is really exciting. And although it's, really amazing news overall, it does create some new problems. And, when, I'm out here discussing renewables and clean power, at events like this, there's always some people who are quick to point out that the sun isn't always shining and the wind isn't always blowing. And that's true. And so what this graph shows is basically shows that problem. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but this is called the duct curve because it kind of looks like a little duck. And basically what it shows is the total demand for non-renewable energy sources throughout an average day. So you can see here, during the middle of the night, demand is fairly low. People are asleep, not using that much energy. And then in 2012, before there's a lot of solar, there used to be peak in demand in the morning. But now it's happened as we've added more and more solar to the grid is, during these daytime hours, that actually, addresses a huge portion, sometimes even a majority or all of our demand for electricity just from solar power, which is really great. But then the problem is, in the afternoon, right when the sun is starting to set, is also right when everyone's coming home from work, turning on their air conditioners, their TVs, doing their laundry. And so it causes a huge spike in electricity demand right as our clean sources are coming to an end. And so that forces the grid operators to turn on these gas-powered peaker plants, which are really expensive to run and they're really polluting. And so we want to avoid that. So, it doesn't actually matter. Now, it used to be just how much energy you use is what really mattered. And now we want to think about not just how much energy are you using, but when are you using it? And that's almost just as important in terms of your carbon footprint. And so the long-term solution to this is likely going to be more battery storage, but that technology is still pretty expensive and limited. I think that's going to become a lot more prominent in the next decade, but right now it's still pretty limited. And so in the short term, PG&E's solution was to automatically transition all of its customers last year to time of use rates, which basically means you pay more for electricity between these peak hours of 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. So just something to be aware of. That's an important trend happening at the moment. And then, with this rise of renewables and a lot of recent research showing that natural gas is a lot worse for the climate than we thought and has some pretty bad effects on air quality, there's really a big push right now to transition all of our buildings to become all electric and stop using natural gas. So you might have heard about some of these gas bans or REACH codes. Berkeley was the first one actually in the entire nation to enact one of these for new construction in 2019. And since then, a whole bunch of local jurisdictions have followed suit. I don't think Dublin has passed a similar policy yet. Emily, maybe you can confirm. However, it's possible that this could actually become a statewide policy in the next code cycle as soon as 2025. So just something to be aware of. Again, I want to stress again that this is only for new construction at the moment. No one's going to be forced to get rid of their gas stove in the next, in the near future. It's not something you have to worry about. However, you should just be aware that this is kind of the general direction that things are moving, and start to think, in the long term about keeping an eye on how you can get your home to be all electric. And then finally, the past few years have really demonstrated the need for more resiliency in our energy system. More intense wildfires has resulted in occasional power shutoff events and also resulted in poor air quality for sometimes weeks each year. Extreme heat is becoming a lot more common, a lot more severe, raising the needs for air conditioning and greater weatherization of our buildings. And then California, we are always living under the threat of the big one, a major earthquake that when it does hit, which it will eventually, could potentially knock off energy infrastructure for a long time. And I do want to point out here that it's expected that if that happens, electricity infrastructure would actually come back online much, much faster than gas infrastructure. So just one thing to keep in mind when you're weighing, gas versus electric. And then finally, there's just other unforeseen disasters, such as a pandemic caused by an airborne virus that, forces us all to work from home for 2 years. And so there's just, a lot changing right now. And so what does this mean? I already mentioned the time of use rates. And then kind of in the longer term, it's expected that gas is actually going to become more expensive relative to electricity. One reason for that is because of the falling costs of renewables that I showed. Another reason is that when you're paying for natural gas, most of what you're paying for is the infrastructure, not for the actual molecules of gas themselves. And so those are all fixed costs. And so as more and more customers transition off of gas, it's going to be a smaller number of customers left paying for the same amount of costs. And so the per customer cost is going to go up. And so, it's if you're really, smart, getting ahead of this can end up saving you a lot of money in the long term. Although it might be a little bit, in some cases, it could be more expensive in the short term. It really depends on your situation. And then finally, I think we'll see more and more demand for on-site generation and solar panels to address some of the resiliency issues. And actually, on that point, one group that can provide some of those services is EBCE. So I want to introduce Juan Cortez with EBCE, who can share a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Chris. So my name is Juan Cortez. I work for East Bay Community Energy. So for those of you who don't know us, we're the power supplier for residential and commercial electricity customers in Alameda County and the city of Tracy. And our mission is to provide more renewable energy at lower rates and to reinvest the revenues back into our communities to create local jobs, administer customer programs, and catalyze sustainable developments. Next slide, please. So just a brief history lesson about EBCE. So we're also known as a Community Choice Aggregator, a CCA, or a Community Choice Energy, CCE. So we're a joint powers authority, which means that we're a public agency formed by local cities. We're not for profit, and we don't have any shareholders. So previously, most of Alameda County was only able to purchase the energy from PG&E, and the ability for CCAs like EBCE comes from a state law that was passed in 2002 called AB 117. And this law allows communities to come together to create their own electricity procurement agency. The first CCA was actually launched in 2010 in Marin County. So in 2015, Alameda County commissioned its own feasible study. 2 years after that, a JPA was signed by 11 cities and the county, which formed EBCE. And in 2018, we began serving about 550,000 customers in Alameda County. 2019, Newark, Pleasanton, and Tracy joined our JPA. And in 2021, those 3 new cities were enrolled into our services. Next slide, please. So currently we have 2 service options available for our customers, and these include Bright Choice. So Bright Choice is an option that offers more renewable energy at lower rates than PG&E's standard service. So this is at a 1% discount to PG&E's default rate. And our second service option is Renewable 100, which is actually what the City of Dublin is enrolled in at the moment, at least just the residential customers. So this is an option that offers 100% renewable energy from Californian-based wind and solar at a premium of 1 penny per kilowatt hour above PG&E's standard rates. So that averages about $5 more a month for a typical home in the East Bay. And I'm gonna go through a PG&E bill in a second as well. Next slide, please. So how does this work? So it's very important to note that all of EBC customers remain PG&E customers for everything except the source of the energy or the generation charge. So we procure more renewable energy from natural resources like wind and solar, which is then delivered through PG&E lines and wires to customers. So these 2 services, power generation and power delivery, they're billed separately on your PG&E bill. And so in short, PG&E continues to handle the billing services and maintaining the grid, while we provide customers with more renewable energy at lower rates. And it's very important to note as well that we do not provide any natural gas service, just electricity. Next slide, please. So this is a sample bill. So you can find your EBCE service on the electric generation charges page of your PG&E energy statement. And this is typically going to be on the 3rd page of your bill. So let's just go to the one on the right, since all of Dublin residents are enrolled into a Renewable 100 service. So on the right, we can see a Renewable 100 bill, and we can see that the customer's rate schedule is a time of use rate. And so there's an additional line item below. So you'll see the Renewable 100 adder. And we can also see that the customer spends an additional $3.36 for Renewable 100. again, at the penny per kilowatt hour premium that we applied. So this customer used 336 kilowatts of energy, and we charged the customer $3.36 additional. Next slide, please. And we also have bill assistance programs. So if you're looking to save money on some bills, please feel free to contact us or go to our website to learn more information. But for example, we have CARE. So CARE provides a 35% discount on electricity and a 20% discount on natural gas bills. FAIR provides an 18% discount. Medical baseline. This is for customers with special energy needs related to a medical condition. They can receive an additional tollment of electricity each month at the lowest rate possible. And we also have this brand new program called the Arrearage Management Program. And this is to basically give customers a payment plan to help pay back that past debt that you might have accrued back in the pandemic. And again, if you have any questions or want to learn more about these programs, feel free to give us a call and we're more than happy to help you out. Next slide, please. And yes, some other programs that we have available. So some programs that we have available at the moment for our residential customers is our Induction Cooktop campaign and our Resilient Home program. So our Resilient Home program is a limited time program from EBCE that makes it simple for property owners to see if a solar and a battery backup system is right for them. So we do this by providing free quotes and pre-negotiated pricing. And to further lower the cost, our partner Sunrun will pay property owners an additional incentive after installation. And again, some of the benefits of installing a solar and a battery backup system is you'll save money by storing the solar energy you produce and using it when rates are at its highest. And you'll also be prepared for rolling blackouts, grid outages during wildfire seasons, heat waves, earthquakes, and other unpredictable events. And our induction cooktop campaigns allows our customers to try out a clean, energy efficient induction cooktop before they go out and buy it. And this is to encourage customers to switch from their gas powered stoves to a clean electric powered one. Next slide, please. So, what are the benefits of being an EBCE customer? And, why did cities decide to join us? So the first benefit is lower rates. We provide a lower rate through our basic plan of Bright Choice that offers a 1% discount compared to PG&E's default rate. Local control and investment. So we're a locally controlled organization, which means that our board is made up of local officials who will play an important role in the decisions that get made. And our energy sales cover all of our costs, and we use any excess revenue to run local programs, help create new jobs locally, and yeah, all that good stuff. So sustainability. So EBC's default electricity product will be more renewable than what residents currently receive from PG&E. And then customers can always opt up to our Renewable 100 option as well. And lastly is customer choice in programs. Customers will have the option to opt up from the current plan or opt down. And we have various programs available to our residential customers as well, as I mentioned before. And that's it from EBCE. Feel free to give us a call if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Juan. Yeah, we partner closely with EBCE. They're great. Yeah, if you have any questions about your bill, give them a call. They're always there to help. So realize we're already halfway through. Somehow we still have some ground to cover, so I will do my best to get through everything relatively quickly. But I want to spend some time walking through a typical home in the Bay Area and cover some of the most common issues that we see coming up over and over again, and the solutions that can help you, again, not only lower your energy bill, but also make you and your family more comfortable year round, and also have cleaner indoor air. So I'm sure, almost anyone who lives in a home, especially if it's an older home, will have experienced at least one, probably multiple of these issues at some point that are up on the screen. And so BayREN, we really base our programs on the idea of a whole house approach. We're thinking of your home as a system. So this approach considers your house as an energy system with interdependent parts. Each of the parts can affect the performance of the entire system. And each component, in addition to having an impact on energy, also affects the comfort and health and safety of your home. So, in order for your home to be at its most efficient, all of these pieces should be working together. So just one example that is pretty common that we see is, a lot of people, they'll see that their energy bill is really high and, their home is really cold in the winter. And so, logically they conclude, well, I must have a faulty or old furnace that's not working. And so they go in and they buy a big fancy new furnace, and then they install it, and the next winter comes and they're kind of left in the same place that they were. And a big reason for that could be, maybe they had a lot of drafts and leaks in the home, and so that furnace is running, but half the energy was just leaking right out of the house and not actually benefiting them and doing its job. And so we really want to think about doing these projects comprehensively and in a way where all of the components work together. And so, if you install insulation and air sealing and windows before replacing your furnace, not only is that furnace going to be more effective, but you can actually install a smaller furnace that costs less upfront to install and is less expensive to run. So that's just one example of the ways that these things can work together. It can really almost basically all of the issues that are listed on the screen are related in one way or another to some of the issues that BayREN can help provide rebates for, and we can help resolve these. And the BayREN single family program is structured so that doing multiple improvements at once, there's additional incentives if you combine if you combine measures. So we really want to encourage thinking comprehensively and not just one issue at a time. And as I mentioned earlier, more and more research has come out in recent years showing that the really detrimental effects of combusting natural gas indoors on the air quality inside your home. So just want to quickly read a couple of really striking findings from the Rocky Mountain Institute, which is a highly respected think tank. So first is children in a home with a gas stove have a 24 to 42% increased risk of developing asthma when they're adults. And studies of comprehensive health, energy, and safety retrofit programs found that for children with asthma, hospital admissions fell by nearly 85% and emergency room visits by 68% a year after the upgrade. So, I personally think those are pretty shocking. And, even if you can afford high energy bills, maybe you don't really care that much about climate change. I hope that this alone is enough of a reason to really get you motivated to make some of these changes and consider electrifying your home, because it really is, important for the comfort and health of you and your family. So get into the actual issues. One of the biggest issues with most homes that we see is the amount of air that they leak through tiny little cracks and holes throughout the structure. So this can happen really anywhere where there's two materials that are meeting. So think like window frames, door frames, lighting fixtures, things like that are all places where air can come in or leave the home. And I have this kind of silly picture on the right because they've done some studies, and in the average home, there's enough of these small little holes and cracks that if you add them all up, it'd be the size of a large hula hoop. So you can imagine, if in your living room where your TV was, there's just a gaping hole to the outside. You can imagine how much energy you'd be wasting while you're running your furnace or AC, and how much that would impact your comfort. So this is an issue that people don't think a lot about, but it really does have a big impact. You can test this with something called a blower door test. Basically, they close all your windows and then put this fancy fan in your door and test the change in pressure when they blow air into your home. It's pretty cool. It's a cool way of testing how much air your home is leaking. And then the solution to this is very simple. It's basically seal those leaks. And so here's, most of it, you can use a caulking gun. There's some other tools that are available to seal these. It's usually, we found, or our contractors have found, that air sealing is probably the most single cost-effective measure you can take to lower your energy bills. So that means it's pretty cheap to do this, and it can really save you a ton of money and also improve your comfort. And so BayREN offers a $150 rebate if you get this done by a professional. And when we get closer to the end, I'll cover in more detail the process for actually receiving these rebates. And so, while too much air leakage is bad, too little circulation can also cause problems of its own. Main issue with this is too much moisture building up, which can cause mold and mildew. This most commonly happens, either on windows or behind furniture. We've also seen houses where the homeowner thought that their kitchen and bathroom were well ventilated, and then the contractor went up into their attic and saw that the fan was just blowing all of that moisture and dirty air directly into the attic with no filter, not going outside. That can produce a really warm and moist and cozy home for rodents and other pests. So all problems that you do not want in your home. Well, this can sound a little counterintuitive because I just said you want to stop air leakage, and I'm saying you want air to circulate. It's really all about just striking a balance and controlling the air that is in your home. You want the air in your home to, number one, be the right temperature, and number two, not be filled with other stuff like too much water vapor or nasty pollutants. And so the solution to this is, primarily it's just ventilation. So making sure you have properly sized fans in your kitchens and bathroom that ventilate to the outside. If you have a furnished air conditioner, adding filters to those systems to make sure that the air coming in is clean. And then finally, if you have a crawl space, which many homes in the Bay Area do, that's a place where a lot of moisture can get into the home. And so there's this solution called vapor sealing, where they basically put this plastic tarp over the crawl space, and that prevents a lot of the moisture from seeping into the home. So BayREN does not offer rebates for these particular solutions. However, we do find that if you're going to be doing a comprehensive home energy upgrade, that's a really good time to look at your ventilation and vapor sealing and maybe do some of those upgrades at the same time. Another issue is leaky and dirty ducts. If you have a central furnace with air ducts, it's been found that the average system in California leaks 30% of its air just in its ducts. So that means if you're running your furnace, 30% of what you're paying for is leaking out into your basement, your attic, your garage, wherever you have those ducts, and not into the rooms where you actually want it. These are all pictures that our contractors have taken in real homes in the region. See here, we have a joke that duct tape is basically good for fixing everything except for your ducts. And the reason for that is just the heat from the ducts melts the adhesive, and then it wears off. You can also see here, sometimes there's leaks, and then what's happening is this insulation around the duct is basically acting as an air filter. And so all of that dust and stuff in your garage is getting sucked through that insulation. And then you might have fiberglass getting sucked into the ducts, or things like dust and allergens getting in. And then you see over here, in some cases, it's so bad that the duct is just completely split off, and 100% of that air is just going straight into a place where no one is gonna get the benefit of it. So again, pretty simple. For minor cases, we can repair these. For more severe cases, you might need to entirely replace the duct system. BayREN does offer rebates of up to $800 for this. And again, that's something that is pretty cost effective. It usually pays for itself within a year or two if it's a bad case of leaky ducts. Another big one is poor or no insulation. I kind of like to say, your air sealing is like putting on a windbreaker, and then insulation is putting on a warm knit sweater underneath your windbreaker. On a cold day, you really need both of those. One or the other isn't going to cut it. And so the insulation is really important. I said air sealing is the #1 most cost-effective thing you can do. The second most is probably adding insulation to your attic. That has a huge impact. A lot of older homes, surprisingly, don't have insulation, or their insulation might be, 30 years old or more. And it just wears down over time. And so if you haven't got new insulation in a long time, it's likely that it's not as effective as it could be. And so we also offer rebates for attic and wall insulation. These are on a per square foot basis, but each of them you can get up to $1,000 per home, depending on how much you are insulating. And then, like I said, we offer extra bonuses for combining things. So if you combine insulation with a new furnace or air conditioning system, you can get a bonus $500. And if you combine attic and wall insulation together, you can get an extra $500. So again, these can really add up. Especially attic insulation is not that expensive to do relative to the cost savings you can get from it. So highly, highly recommend getting this looked into. Then the other big area, and this is probably where there's the most interest, these where it gets talked about a lot, is the appliance upgrades. So we do, before I get into this, I just want to note that BayREN, we do still offer some modest rebates for high efficiency gas water heaters and furnaces. Those, I'm not going to cover those because we really want to encourage people to think about the all electric models. But in certain situations, that's not possible. So I just want to, before I get into this, let you know, there are like, I think $300 rebates available for high efficiency gas water heater or furnace. But that being said, what we are really excited about right now is these new heat pump systems. You might have heard the term heat pump lately. It's more commonly used term now. And if you don't know what it is, basically you already have one in your home in your refrigerator. It kind of works like that. So instead, whereas a gas water heater burns gas and then produces heat and transfers that heat into the water, a heat pump simply uses a fan and some coils with refrigerant to absorb heat from the outside air and move that directly into the water. And so because, what this means is basically, well, a gas system can theoretically, in theory, the maximum possible efficiency can be is 100%. Heat pumps can achieve easily 300 to 400% efficiency, which means for every 1 unit of electricity that you are consuming, you are putting 3 to 4 units of heat into your water. So they're very efficient. They are also, I mentioned the time of use rates. These are also great because they can connect to the grid and kind of work like a battery. So because they run electricity, you can heat up all of your water at 3 p.m. and then at 4 p.m. when you get home, that water will still be hot and you don't need to pay the higher rate to heat it up. So we offer a $1,000 incentive directly to the homeowner for installing these. There's a couple of other incentives that can stack on top of this. There's one that BayREN offers. It's $1,000 that goes to the contractor when they install it, that in most cases will get passed on to the customer. There's also a federal tax credit. And then there's another statewide program called Tech that also offers $1,000. So all of these add up. You can get up to $3,000 to $4,000 for installing one of these, which really makes it quite competitive with the gas systems. And so that same technology can also work for heating the air in your home. Again, it's kind of like an air conditioner that can also work in reverse, is the way I like to explain it. And so they just pull air from the outside and push it into your home without actually burning anything or producing, creating new heat. And so the really cool benefit of these is that they can switch and operate in reverse and provide heating and cooling. So if you're someone that currently has only heating and you are thinking about adding air conditioning, adding one of these would essentially be 2 birds with 1 stone. You'd be getting a higher quality, higher performance furnace and a high performance air conditioner all in one. They're also great because they're really flexible in terms of the setup. So on the left, you see this is kind of a traditional central ducted system that many homes have, where you have this outdoor condenser unit, and then you have the air handler in place of your current furnace, and then you keep all of your ducts in place. And then there's this other option called mini splits, where you would still have that outdoor system, but then you'd have different lines of refrigerant running to different parts of the house. And so each room could have its own air handler. And so what that means is you can only heat or cool the rooms that you are actually in. So it's a lot more efficient that way. Or, if one person in your family likes their room a lot warmer, they can get that. And then, another person could have the room a lot colder. So yeah, really cool systems. We're really excited about these. BayREN does also offer a $1,000 rebate for these. And there are some other statewide and federal programs that can stack on top of that. And then the last appliance I want to cover is induction cooktops. So Juan mentioned this before. I also covered the negative health impacts of natural gas. The place where that's most urgent is stoves, because that's in the kitchen where you're spending a lot of time and where the ventilation might not be so good. The gas stoves produce a lot of really dangerous byproducts such as carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, formaldehyde. They're big contributors to asthma. They also, there's a big risk of burning yourself, and there's always a risk of gas leaks. So especially if you have children in the home, induction is a lot safer option. They're also a lot more efficient. So a gas, you're heating, you have the gas, and then there's a little pocket of air, and then your pan. A lot of that heat escapes from the side. How induction works, it's not these old, terrible coil systems from the 70s. People have bad experiences. Induction instead works by using magnets. So it's basically a magnet that turns the metal in your pan into the heating element itself. So if you turn on induction cooktop and you don't have a pan on there, it doesn't get hot. You can put your hand on it, you won't feel a thing. But as soon as you put the pan on, that pan will heat up instantly. So they're extremely efficient. Again, a lot safer, no impact on indoor air quality. And also they're just a joy to cook on. I've used them a few times in the past. We've done cool demonstrations before. A lot of professional chefs have converted over to these in recent years because they can heat water in half the time as gas. And they offer a lot more precision. They cool off instantly. If you want to cool your pan, you don't have to wait for that. So they're really great. We offer a $300 incentive for these. If you're not sure, go to EBCE and try out their loaner program and test it out for a bit before you commit. Okay, so I know we are getting a little bit short on time, so I'm going to run through this as quickly as I can. Skip that slide. So I just shared a lot of information with you. Odds are that you don't know which issues of these are present in your home. You might know some of them, but you might not know all of them, such as, the insulation or the ventilation. So a great place to start with that, if you aren't sure, is a home energy score. So this is a service that BayREN offers. It uses a tool that was actually created by the US Department of Energy. And essentially you would sign up and we'll send a qualified assessor out to your home. They'll look at all the systems in your home that I just covered, as well as some additional ones. They'll get a score from 1 to 10 on how efficient your home is. And then you'll also receive a pretty lengthy report with personalized recommendations for how you can improve the efficiency. So it's a great, easy way to get started and learn a little bit more. We offer up to $350 in rebates for this service. And it's really meant to be streamlined with the rebate program. And so this is a great way to start out and then immediately get transitioned into making the upgrades and installing the rebates. Sorry, I'll get the tea. So the main way that the BayREN Home Plus program or the single family program works is that in order to receive the rebates that I've been mentioning, basically the only thing you have to do is install them through a BayREN participating contractor. So we have a whole network. I think we have something like 70 contractors that are active in Alameda County at the moment. And the reason that we have this, it's require you to go through these contractors, is really so we can vet them. So we can make sure that they do quality work, that they're trained in efficiency, they know what they're talking about. They're not going to price gouge you. If you get a quote from someone, you think they are price gouging you, let the program know. We have ways to deal with that. That's another reason is we've removed contractors in the past if they're not up to our standards. So you're getting good, trustworthy contractors. Then the other big benefit is that they will handle all of the paperwork on your behalf. I know it's always a big pain with rebate programs to fill out the paperwork. So basically you would hire the contractor, let them know that you want to access the BayREN rebates. They'll make sure that the equipment that they install meets our standards. Then they'll fill out the paperwork. You might just need to sign one thing. They would have to have someone come out and make sure there's no gas leaks after everything is installed. And then from there, you would get a check in the mail. So it's a very straightforward, streamlined process. We have a tool on our website right here where you can filter by language and service offered and find a whole list of contractors that are eligible. And then the other big resource that the BayREN program offers is this home energy advisor. I like to say, if there's one thing you should write down during this presentation, make it this phone number. This is a really great tool that BayREN offers. It's basically a free call line where you can get a, again, free consultation by an expert on any aspect of your home energy upgrade process. So if you don't know where to start, they can give you some pointers on what to look for, kind of what the best first steps might be. If you have technical questions about specific equipment, if you want to compare quotes from contractors, they can help you with that. They can also refer out to a wide number of complementary programs if for whatever reason our program isn't the right fit for you. So you can call them here, email them, or go to our website right here and set up an appointment with them. Again, I cannot recommend the service enough. It's really fantastic. And just as a reminder, we'll send out these slides and some follow-up information. So if you didn't write it down right now, you'll be receiving that within the next few days. So just to reiterate the process for receiving all those rebates that I mentioned, again, it's the way the rebates work, it's a per measure rebate. So I covered all of those. Basically pick and choose whichever measures you want to install, and each one of those has the rebate tied to it. Add those all up, that's the rebate you get. It's a maximum of $5,000, so you can get up to $5,000. And the process is, these first two steps are optional, but we do highly recommend, again, starting with a home energy advisor, getting that consultation, then getting your home energy score, and then from there, selecting a participating contractor on our website. I would recommend getting a couple of quotes, comparing the best quotes, choosing whoever offers the best rate and just seems like the best fit for you. From there, the contractor would install the upgrades, again, perform that combustion appliance safety test, and then you would get a check in the mail. It's as simple as that. So to get started, again, here's all the different points where you could get started. And if you still have questions after this, you can always reach out to me personally. Here's my email and phone number. I had one more program I wanted to cover. However, because we're short on time, I think I'm going to move past this, but just want to mention the Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. They're a really great nonprofit based in Oakland that we partner with. And they have a service called the Greenhouse Call, where you can fill out a quick survey online, and they'll send you a free energy efficiency kit with LED light bulbs, smart power strips, and materials like that, all for free. So that's another great place to get started if you don't want to commit to a full upgrade. Here's all of our speaker contact info. And let's see if we have any questions. I don't see any right now, but yeah, feel free to type any questions into that Q&A. I think you can also raise your hand and I can allow you to talk and ask your question live if you prefer that.
Could you go back one slide, Chris, just so people have contact information up?
Oops. Yes, oops, sorry, I think I just stop my screen share. Okay, are you seeing that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. I asked a question, then I'll include all the slides I skipped over. Yeah, those will all be in the PDF that I sent out. And I do apologize for that. It's hard to, the timing sometimes doesn't quite work out to get through everything, so we have a lot of ground to cover. So my apologies, but again, we'll send out the slides in a PDF within the next few days. Great. Well, I think I'll stay on until for another 2 minutes until 7, but if there are no more questions, thanks again, everyone, for joining. Hope this is helpful and you decide to visit our websites or maybe participate in one of the programs that came up. And thanks again to the City of Dublin for helping to host this and having us today. And thanks to Juan and Emily and all of our other speakers.